Lyra's teal skin shimmered under the soft white lights of the starship's observation deck. Her eyes, large and reflective like polished gemstones, scanned the viewports anxiously. Outside, the Gliese 241 system stretched in endless blackness, dotted with pale stars and distant suns. She had been trained her whole life to understand technology, to respect it, but humans were different. She had heard the stories, the warnings. Humans were fragile, reckless, and chaotic. Their ships could supposedly not survive even minor space turbulence. Their technology seemed crude compared to the elegant, perfectly engineered vessels of her people. And yet, here she was, standing on one of their ships, uncertain whether to feel curiosity, fear, or awe. "Lyra," a voice called. It was smooth, confident, human. Captain Harris walked toward her, hands loosely clasped behind his back. His brown hair was slightly messy, and a small grin tugged at the corner of his mouth. "You look worried. I have been told your kind cannot survive the hazards of space without breaking," Lyra replied, her voice trembling slightly. Her four-fingered hands pressed against the cool railing, trying to steady herself. A meteor storm. Even a small one. It would destroy a human ship. Harris laughed, a warm, natural sound that seemed to fill the empty observation deck. "You've heard wrong," he said simply. "We've survived worse. Come, I'll show you." Lyra tilted her head, unsure if she should believe him. Her instincts screamed caution. Her people's ships were made of alloys that could bend only so far before snapping, and their energy shields were flawless but delicate. Humans, she thought, were supposed to be the exact opposite, unpredictable, soft, dangerous to themselves. Yet Harris's calm confidence was magnetic. Despite herself, she followed him toward the command center. The deck thrummed as the ship adjusted its position. Lyra noticed the gentle vibrations, the subtle flecks of the metal beneath her feet. She felt a pang of anxiety. "Even the hull," she murmured. "Your hull, it seems." "Weak." Harris glanced at her, a spark of amusement in his eyes. "Weak is only a word," he said. "Watch and see." No sooner had the words left his mouth than the sensors blared, red lights flashing in sharp bursts. The ship's AI chirped warnings in a rapid mechanical voice. Outside, she saw it. A belt of jagged meteors, moving faster than anything she had imagined, headed straight toward them. Her heart thudded painfully in her chest. This is impossible," Lyra whispered. Her breath fogged the glass as she leaned closer to the viewport. The stars beyond were beautiful, but the threat of destruction made her pulse race. Meteors collided with light-speed precision, spinning and ricocheting dangerously. Any normal ship, she thought, would have shattered by now. Harris's hands moved with precision she could barely follow. He shifted levers, tapped glowing panels, and spoke softly to the ship. The human ship seemed alive, responding to him as if it understood instinctively. Sparks flew outside, and the hull groaned under impact, but it held. Lyra's mouth opened in shock. You're not breaking," she said, her voice a mixture of disbelief and awe. Her species would have crumbled long before this, every panel cracking, every system failing. And yet here, the humans moved with confidence, even grace, their vessel bending around danger instead of shattering. Harris glanced at her, eyes bright. "We're built to survive, Lyra," he said simply. "Not because we're stronger or faster or smarter, but because we don't give up. We adapt. That's what humans do." Lyra felt a strange warmth inside her chest, a mixture of fear, wonder, and respect. She had come to study humans, expecting to see weakness and failure. Instead, she found resilience, ingenuity, and courage. The idea that a human could face impossible odds and survive. It was almost magical. And in that moment, looking at the human captain who seemed completely unshaken by the storm outside, Lyra realized something she could never have expected. Humans were not fragile. Not in the way her people thought. They were dangerous not because they could destroy, but because they could endure, adapt, and thrive. Even when everything tried to crush them, the ship quivered under another meteor strike. Lyra gripped the railing, heart racing, and whispered, almost to herself, They can survive anything." The meteor storm hammered the human ship with relentless fury. Lyra pressed her hands against the viewport, her heart thundering in her chest. Outside, jagged rocks tore through space like shards of glass, each one threatening to rip the ship apart. The red warning lights blinked furiously, bathing the control room in an urgent glow. Lyra's body trembled. She had never seen such chaos survive so long. Harris moved with astonishing calm. Fingers danced over buttons, levers, and touchscreens. He adjusted power to the shields, rerouted energy to the engines, and tilted the ship in ways that made Lyra's stomach lurch. Sparks flew from the hull as tiny impacts hammered the surface. The entire vessel shook like it was a living creature, flexing and twisting to avoid destruction. This shouldn't be possible," Lyra whispered, her voice barely audible over the alarms. Her people would have lost everything by now. Systems would fail, panels would split, and the hull would crumble. Every instinct screamed at her to panic. Yet, the human ship remained intact, almost as if it understood its own fragility and chose to endure anyway. Harris glanced at her and offered a small smile. "It's not magic. It's practice, observation, and persistence. We don't just survive storms. We learn from them while they're happening." Lyra's wide eyes followed him as he leaned into the controls, correcting the ship's trajectory with tiny, precise adjustments. Every movement seemed risky, reckless even, yet every correction worked. She realized humans weren't afraid of breaking. They assumed it could happen and kept going anyway. The audacity of it left her breathless. The ship shuddered violently as a massive meteor grazed the hull, sending a wave of vibration through the deck. Lyra stumbled, catching herself on the railing. Sparks flew from the outer panels, and a sharp smell of burning metal filled the air. She expected disaster. She braced for the hull to split apart. But the ship flexed, its energy shields glowing a fierce blue, absorbing the strike. Lyra gasped aloud, the sound almost lost in the alarms. It held. It didn't break. Harris chuckled, voice calm and steady. "It bends so it doesn't break. That's how we survive. Humans don't wait for perfection. We improvise when everything falls apart." The storm intensified. Meteors larger than anything Lyra had imagined screamed past the viewport. One slammed against the hull, spinning the ship violently. Panels rattled, and an emergency siren screamed, but Harris remained composed. He shifted power from non-essential systems, reinforced the shields, and adjusted thrusters with smooth precision. The vessel wove through space like a dancer, dodging death with astonishing grace. Lyra felt tears prick her eyes, not from fear, but from awe. She had expected humans to be weak, to break under pressure, to fail spectacularly. Instead, she saw courage and ingenuity intertwined, working faster than her mind could fully comprehend. Each survival maneuver was beautiful in its simplicity and brilliance. Her voice shook as she spoke, barely above a whisper. You're not afraid of being damaged. You just continue." Harris looked at her, eyes steady, a faint smile on his lips. "Exactly. We accept the risk. We face it. And if something breaks, we fix it and keep moving. That's how we thrive." The last few meteors streaked past, and the storm began to thin. Dust and sparks hung in the vacuum around them, the ship groaning and flexing as it finally cleared the danger. Lyra's hands released the railing, trembling. Her chest heaved with a mix of relief and wonder. She stared at the human captain, really looked at him for the first time. In his calm, confident eyes, she saw something more than skill. She saw belief. Belief that no matter how fragile the vessel, no matter how impossible the danger, humans could endure. Lyra whispered, almost to herself, "They survive. Because they refuse to stop. Even when everything should destroy them." Harris's smile widened. "You're starting to understand. Humans aren't unbreakable. We just keep going when everyone else would surrender." Lyra felt a new respect blooming inside her chest, fierce and undeniable. She realized that survival wasn't just about strength, or technology, or shields. It was about spirit. And humans, fragile, chaotic humans, had spirit enough to face the impossible. As the storm finally passed, the stars beyond the viewport shimmered softly. Lyra felt a quiet, profound awe. She knew, deep in her heart, that she was witnessing something extraordinary, a species that could face death, chaos, and destruction, and still stand unbroken. The storm cleared. But the danger was far from over. Ahead of them lay a planet with a jagged surface, mountains sharp as blades and craters deep as canyons. Its gravity well tugged at the ship, pulling them down faster than Lyra's heart could follow. She gripped the railing, fear twisting in her chest. This planet was unstable, unpredictable, and landing here seemed impossible. Harris calmly scanned the sensors. His fingers danced over the controls, recalculating trajectories, rerouting power, adjusting shields. Lyra could barely keep up with the speed of his decisions. Each adjustment seemed risky, even reckless, but somehow, the ship obeyed him as if it had a mind of its own. This We can't land here safely, Lyra said, her voice trembling. Your species. You will fail. The mountains, the gravity. It's impossible. Harris shot her a quick glance, a small confident smile tugging at his lips. Impossible is just a word, Lyra. Watch. The ship dipped low, scraping past jagged peaks, engines roaring as it dodged crumbling rock formations. Sparks flew where the hull brushed debris. Lyra's stomach twisted. She had never imagined a ship could survive such punishment. Her people would have called it suicide. Every bone in her body told her to look away, but she couldn't. A huge boulder suddenly blocked their path. Harris shifted the ship at the last second, the hull flexing violently. The metal groaned, panels rattled, but the vessel absorbed the impact. Lyra's breath hitched in shock. How is it not broken? She gasped, voice trembling. Harris's hands never stopped moving. He redirected energy, adjusted thrusters, and tilted the ship again. We move with it, he said. We don't fight it. The ship isn't fragile, it's adaptable, just like us. The landing was rough. The ship skidded across rocky plains, dust and sparks rising with every friction point. Lyra held onto the railing, body tense as if bracing for a fatal crash. But each scrape, each bump, the vessel endured. Its frame flexed metal-absorbing shocks that would have shattered any alien ship. The human technology was almost alive, bending to survive rather than resisting the chaos. Finally, with one last lurch, the ship came to rest. The engines powered down, leaving only the sound of their heavy breathing and the low hum of emergency systems. Dust settled in the air, motes glittering in the dim light. Lyra's knees nearly gave way. She looked at the ship, expecting at least some damage scratches, cracks, maybe a broken panel. But there was nothing. You survived it, she whispered, voice shaking with awe. Her species would have lost hull integrity in seconds. Their systems would have failed catastrophically. But here, humans stood unbroken, their vessel a testament to their resilience. Harris exhaled slowly, brushing sweat from his forehead. We survive because we refuse to break, he said. Because even when it seems impossible, we adapt. That's what humans do. Lyra felt a strange warmth rise in her chest. She had come expecting to see fragility, to witness failure. Instead, she found courage and ingenuity intertwined in ways she could barely comprehend. Humans weren't just surviving, they were thriving, even in situations designed to destroy them. Tentatively, she stepped closer to the viewport, gazing at the alien planet below. Jagged peaks, jagged craters, and shifting plains stretched endlessly. It was a dangerous, chaotic world, yet the humans had conquered it without a scratch. Lyra turned to Harris, her voice soft but filled with new respect. You're kind. You can endure anything. You face death, and yet, you keep going. Harris smiled, quiet and steady. We don't pretend to be unbreakable, he said. We just choose not to stop when we're tested. We learn, we adapt. That's how we survive. For the first time, Lyra felt a surge of hope. She realized that survival wasn't about strength alone, or perfect planning, or flawless technology. It was about spirit, persistence, and courage. And humans had spirit enough to face the impossible and still stand tall. As the dust settled and the twin suns of the planet began to rise, Lyra whispered to herself, almost in disbelief, they aren't fragile. They are unstoppable. The twin suns had risen fully, casting long fractured shadows across the jagged terrain. Lyra stepped out of the human ship cautiously, her four-fingered hands gripping the edges of her protective suit. The air was thin and sharp, carrying a metallic scent that made her nostrils flare. Every step felt precarious. The ground shifted under her feet, and small rocks skittered across the planet's surface as if alive. Harris followed her, calm and steady. Careful, he said, voice low, but don't be afraid. Most things only react to fear. Lyra frowned, unsure how humans could be so confident. She had been trained to treat every alien environment with meticulous caution. Every step she took in a new world was calculated, measured. But Harris seemed to move instinctively, attuned to the planet in a way she couldn't yet understand. They hadn't gone far when a movement caught Lyra's eye. A creature emerged from behind a jagged rock formation, a thin, wiry animal with 4 spindly legs and glowing amber eyes. Its mandibles clicked and its tail twitched with dangerous intent. Lyra froze, instinct screaming that it was aggressive, possibly deadly. Stay calm, Harris whispered. He crouched slightly, moving his hands slowly and deliberately. Watch me. The creature froze as he spoke. Then, instead of attacking, it tilted its head, as if trying to understand this strange new life. Harris lowered his hand, palm open. The human's calm confidence radiated in a way Lyra couldn't describe. Slowly, carefully, he extended his fingers toward the creature. Lyra's heart raced. She had never seen such a thing. Predators of her people's worlds would have lunged instantly at any human. Yet this one didn't. It sniffed the air, hesitated, then inched closer. "See?" Harris murmured. "They can sense fear. Or calm. It's not magic. It's respect and patience." Lyra's chest tightened. The human's voice was soft, almost musical, and the creature seemed to respond to it instinctively. Slowly, it stepped forward and brushed against his hand. Harris smiled faintly, barely moving, allowing the animal to learn trust on its own terms. You communicate without words," Lyra breathed, astonished. Her species relied on technology to translate emotions or intent, yet Harris had done it with nothing but his presence. He glanced at her and nodded. "We listen first. We try to understand. Then we act. That's how we survive." The creature's amber eyes softened, and it circled Lyra, who held her breath. She could feel the difference in approach. Humans didn't demand obedience. They didn't force compliance. They earned it through patience, courage, and presence. "You're kind. You're not afraid of life that's dangerous," Lyra whispered, awe mixing with disbelief. "You adapt to it, not fight it immediately." Harris shrugged, smiling faintly. "Fear can be useful, but it shouldn't control you. Most danger isn't in the creature, it's in our reaction to it. Humans survive because we control ourselves, even when chaos surrounds us." Lyra took a tentative step forward, extending a hand toward the creature. It sniffed her, then nudged her gently. A surge of wonder and respect filled her chest. She realized in that moment that humans didn't just survive storms, or meteors, or impossible landings, they survived life itself, with all its unpredictability. For the first time, Lyra felt a deep admiration, almost reverence, for the humans beside her. They weren't perfect, they weren't invincible, but their resilience, their courage, and their empathy allowed them to thrive in ways she had never imagined. "Your people," she said quietly, almost to herself. "You can face death and danger, yet still connect, still endure, still understand." Harris's eyes crinkled with a small smile. "It's not about being unbreakable. It's about refusing to stop, even when the world seems determined to destroy you." Lyra's heart pounded as she watched him and the creature and the strange harmony that formed between them. She felt a new understanding forming, a profound respect that went beyond admiration. Humans were fragile in appearance, yet in essence, they were unstoppable, not because they could crush threats, but because they could adapt, endure, and connect, even when the odds seemed impossible. As the twin suns climbed higher in the alien sky, Lyra whispered to herself, a note of wonder in her voice. "They survive because they are alive in every sense, and nothing can truly break them." The alien sun dipped low, casting long jagged shadows over the rocky plains. Lyra had barely begun to understand this planet when the wind began to change. At first, it was a whisper, rustling loose stones and curling the greenish mist that clung to the ground. Then the whispers became a roar. Dust and debris whipped across the plains, and the sky darkened as heavy clouds rolled in, carrying electricity that split the horizon in violent arcs. Lyra froze, panic flaring in her chest. Her species would have retreated immediately, shielding themselves with technology until the storm passed. "We can't survive this," she gasped. "It's too powerful. The lightning, the wind." Harris moved with calm certainty. "We don't hide from storms," he said. "We prepare, adapt, and face them." Lyra's wide eyes followed him as he worked. He activated a portable energy shield around their small camp, the barrier humming softly as it flexed against the wind. Sparks crackled where debris hit, but the shield held firm. Harris moved between consoles and tools, improvising repairs to the shields, reinforcing weak points with whatever materials were at hand. Lyra watched, unable to stop herself from marveling. She had thought humans fragile, yet here they were, facing one of the deadliest storms she had ever seen and thriving. They didn't panic, they didn't falter. Every action was deliberate, precise, and yet flexible, even if the shield fails. Lyra said, voice shaking, "You could die." Harris glanced at her, eyes soft but resolute. "Maybe, but we try. We don't wait for perfect conditions. That's what makes us strong. We move forward anyway." A bolt of lightning struck nearby, sending a shockwave that knocked Lyra to the ground. She scrambled to her feet, heart pounding. Harris extended a hand, helping her steady herself. The storm battered them, rain lashing against her suit, hail pinging like tiny stones, and yet Harris's calm never wavered. He moved with the storm, using its energy, predicting its patterns, turning potential disaster into manageable danger. Lyra's chest ached with admiration. Her people valued perfection, control, and predictability, but humans embraced chaos. They faced it head-on, improvising and enduring, their spirit stronger than any material protection. You aren't afraid," she whispered, barely audible over the wind. "Even when everything is trying to destroy you." Harris gave a faint smile. "We feel fear. We just don't let it stop us. Survival isn't about never being afraid, it's about acting even when fear is present." As the storm reached its peak, the ground itself seemed to tremble. Large rocks tumbled down slopes and the sky cracked open with violent lightning. Lyra felt terror grip her entirely, yet she also felt a strange rising hope. The humans had survived worse. They adapted. They endured. And somehow, watching Harris move like the storm itself obeyed him, she believed that they could survive this too. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. The storm slowly weakened, the wind easing, the rain turning to mist. The shield bore damage but remained intact, a testament to the ingenuity and persistence of its creators. Lyra sank to the ground, exhausted but in awe. "You survived it," she whispered, voice trembling. "The planet. The storm. You survived it all." Harris knelt beside her, brushing rain from her shoulder. "We survive because we refuse to break," he said softly. "We make mistakes, we fall, we adapt. That's how humans thrive. That's how we face the impossible." Lyra's eyes glimmered with newfound respect. She realized that survival wasn't about being unbreakable. It was about persistence, courage, and creativity. Humans faced every threat with their minds and hearts open, learning and improvising in ways that defied logic and expectation. As the storm passed completely, the alien sky began to clear, revealing stars that sparkled like diamonds above the jagged horizon. Lyra inhaled, feeling the weight of awe and admiration fill her chest. For the first time, she understood the truth. Humans weren't fragile. They were unstoppable. Not because they were perfect, but because they refused to surrender, even when everything around them tried to destroy them. And in that moment, watching Harris stand tall amidst the ruined landscape, she whispered softly, "They can endure anything. Because they never, ever stop." The alien sun had dipped behind jagged cliffs, and the landscape was bathed in a soft, eerie glow. Lyra sat beside the campfire, her body aching from the storm's relentless assault. Sparks danced in the thin air, and the warmth of the fire was a small comfort against the chill. Her mind, however, was racing, filled with questions and amazement at what she had witnessed. Harris moved quietly, repairing a small section of the portable shield that had sustained minor damage during the storm. His hands were steady, moving with a confidence that seemed almost effortless. Lyra watched him, mesmerized. Each action was purposeful, precise, yet somehow flexible, able to adjust to sudden changes or unexpected hazards. She had never seen such a combination of skill and instinct in her life. "I still don't understand," she said quietly, breaking the silence. "Your species. It shouldn't survive half of what I've seen today. Your ships, your shelters, your reactions. It's incredible. How do you do it?" Harris glanced up, eyes reflecting the firelight. "It's not about doing the impossible perfectly," he said softly. "It's about trying. We learn from what fails, we adapt to what works, and we keep moving. Every human knows they can break, yet we accept it and push forward anyway." Lyra's eyes widened. "You accept fragility?" Her voice carried a mixture of shock and awe. "That is incomprehensible. My people would never do that. We fear breaking, we fear failure. And yet here you are, calm, alive, thriving." Harris nodded, setting down his tools. "We know we aren't perfect," he said, voice calm. "We make mistakes, we get hurt, and sometimes we fail. But we keep going. That's what makes us strong. Not the absence of danger or damage, but the refusal to stop, even when everything tries to destroy us." Lyra felt something stir in her chest. A strange warmth, a mix of admiration, wonder, and humility. She had been sent to study humans, to observe their weaknesses, but what she found was far greater than she had anticipated. Humans didn't just survive storms, meteors, and alien predators. They endured life itself, with all its unpredictability, and grew stronger through every challenge. Your resilience. She whispered, voice trembling. It's not just physical. It's mental, emotional, everything about your species. Refuses to give up. Even when everything seems hopeless. Harris leaned back, gazing at the alien sky. We survive because we try. Because we refuse to give in to fear. Because we believe there's always a way forward, even if we don't know it yet. That's why we endure. Lyra stared at him, her mind spinning. She thought of the meteor storm, the impossible crash landing, the alien creature they had tamed together. She realized that humans didn't just respond to danger, they thrived in it. Their creativity, courage, and empathy were tools as vital as any shield or hull. They could adapt where others failed, improvise where others froze, and connect where others retreated. Tears pricked her eyes. She had expected weakness. She had expected failure. But she found something entirely unexpected. A species that could face anything, survive everything, and still grow, still learn, still care. Humans were not fragile, they were extraordinary. Captain Harris, she said finally, her voice steady despite the emotion, I came here to observe. To study humans. To understand your limits. But I see now. There are no limits. You can endure anything. Harris smiled faintly, eyes warm. We break sometimes, he said. We fall, but we always stand again. That's what it means to be human. Lyra's gaze drifted to the stars, shimmering cold and distant above the jagged horizon. For the first time, she felt a deep, unshakable admiration. Humans could bend, twist, and stumble, but they never surrendered. That relentless will to continue, to survive, to adapt, it was unlike anything she had known. And as she sat beside the human captain, watching him calmly repair what others would have called irreparable, she understood something profound. Strength wasn't perfection. It wasn't invulnerability. True strength was persistence, courage, and heart. Humans had all three in abundance. And in that moment, Lyra realized with quiet certainty that nothing, not storms, not predators, not alien worlds could ever truly break them. The twin suns hung low over the jagged horizon, casting long shadows across the alien landscape. Lyra stood at the edge of the human ship's ramp, her four-fingered hands gripping the rail as she looked out over the terrain. The jagged mountains, rocky plains, and swirling mist below had once seemed terrifying, impossible. And yet the humans had not only survived, they had conquered it with patience, courage, and ingenuity. Her gaze shifted to Captain Harris. He was checking the ship's systems, his hands moving confidently over controls that seemed too fragile to endure such punishment. Sparks flickered and panels hummed, but the vessel stood whole, unbroken. Lyra's chest tightened with awe. She had come expecting to witness weakness, to study fragile humans. But instead she had discovered something far more profound. You really can do that without breaking, she whispered. Voice trembling, Harris looked up, smiling softly. We break, he said, but we don't stay broken. We adapt, we keep going. That's the human way. Lyra swallowed hard. She had seen humans survive meteor storms, impossible landings, alien predators, and planetary storms. She had watched them improvise, create, and endure when any other species would have failed. But it wasn't just their bodies or their technology that amazed her, it was their spirit, their persistence, and their refusal to surrender. Even when everything seemed against them, her mind replayed every moment, the way the ship flexed instead of shattering, the calm in Harris's eyes when all logic said panic, the alien creature that trusted them both, the storm they had weathered together. Humans were fragile in appearance, yes, but their heart and mind made them unstoppable. She realized she had never understood the full meaning of resilience until now. I thought your kind would break under pressure, Lyra admitted, her voice small. I thought humans were fragile, weak. But now, I see. You can endure anything. Not because you are perfect, but because you refuse to give up. Harris walked to her, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. Strength isn't perfection, he said gently. It's persistence. It's courage. It's the ability to stand up again, every single time, no matter what tries to knock you down. Lyra nodded, tears glimmering in her eyes. For the first time, she felt a deep, almost reverent admiration, not just for Harris, but for his entire species. Humans had survived the impossible and carried on, learning and growing stronger with every trial. They were not flawless. They were not invincible. But they were alive, and in that life, they had a power beyond her comprehension. I will never forget this, she whispered. I came to study humans. But I have learned so much more. You inspire. You teach. You endure. Harris smiled, a quiet, knowing smile. That's all any of us can do, he said. We keep going, we learn, we help others survive too. That's what makes us human. Lyra took a deep breath and stepped onto the ship's ramp. Her heart ached to leave this place, to leave him behind, but she knew it was time. She looked back at the human who had survived storms, dangers, and impossible challenges, not with technology alone, but with courage, intelligence, and heart. A warmth spread through her chest, a mixture of admiration and hope.